Welcome back. Things are a little slow on the campaign trail tonight, but that's because the federal party leaders have stepped out of the limelight to get ready for the televised debates this weekend. They'll debate in French on Sunday, and then on Monday, they'll be going toe-to-toe in English. But heading into the debates, Liberal leader Jean Chrétien has scored a big coup against the NDP. Today, one of Canada's railway unions threw its support behind the Grits. CTV's Ken Ernhofer has the story from Ottawa.
Jean Chrétien is counting on winning over lots of old NDP supporters in this election. And today he got a big boost from a staunch NDP backer in the past, Canada's largest railway union.
The way to go in 1993 is with Mr. Jean Chrétien and the Liberal Party of Canada.
The 13,000-member Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way employees says the Liberals have a proven track record supporting the railroads, while the Tories want to break them up.
We said at the beginning of this campaign that the preoccupation of our campaign had to be the creation of jobs, and you have recognized that.
The endorsement came as Chrétien tried to cool down the controversy that started when his predecessor, John Turner, wondered how realistic it is to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Accord as the Liberals want. Chrétien downplayed any split.
Mr. Turner said that he agrees with our position. He says it's going to be difficult. I never said that it will be easy to succeed the Tory administration. So there is no difference there. I always said it will be difficult, but...
Chrétien says the Americans may yet reject the deal, and he labeled as absolutely false a report that the Liberals reassured Mexico and the U.S. that they would proclaim NAFTA by the January 1st deadline.
Our position is clear. We want to renegotiate, and we have the position on a NAFTA to proclaim. But there's no date for proclamation. You sign a paper for that.
Chrétien is now preparing for the two debates, Sunday and Monday. He refuses to discuss his strategy. But the Liberals say they have the momentum in this campaign, and they need a good performance from Chrétien in order to keep it up. Ken Ernhofer, CTV News, Ottawa.
And one person that you probably won't be seeing at the federal leaders' debate is Mel Hertig. The National Party leader has been in and out of court arguing that the CBC discriminated against him by not inviting him to participate. But today, the Alberta Court of Appeal dismissed his case and ordered him to pay the court costs. Hertig says he'll now appeal to the Supreme Court.
I think a lot of the things we do in our democracy are due for an overhaul. They're much less democratic than they should be. And I think this is a very important principle that we're going to pursue. And I think it will have an effect on the way politics is done in the future in this country.
And here at home, people in Winnipeg had a chance today to get a taste of what this weekend's debate may be like. This afternoon, 5 candidates squared off in a forum at the University of Manitoba to sell voters on their party's vision for the future. NewsHour's Lisa Keller was there.
Jobs is number one. Research and development is right up there.
That's the message the Liberal Party wants to get across to recession-weary Canadians.
We have to move away from the resource base that we've been relying on for these last several decades. And we have to start to build products and build services and build systems that allow us to be in the forefront of manufacturing, of the service industries in the future.
The parties are trying to set themselves apart from each other. And for the Tories, debt continues to be the big problem.
Well, people are very concerned about their future, and that's tied up with the whole question of the debt and the interest, the payments that we're having to expend on the debt.
Not surprisingly, the NDP and Reform visions of Canada aren't even in the same ballpark.
My party believes that there are clear choices in this election. I can't imagine a Canada without Medicare. We've got to fight to preserve it.
We would like to see government role reduced, and we would like to see Canadians taking more responsibility for their own livelihoods.
The candidates say jobs and the deficit are the biggest issues facing Canadians today. But the reality is Winnipeggers have some other concerns on their minds as well.
Well, I'm a single parent, so obviously I'd have to say daycare.
Somebody in government who you can trust. That's another thing.
Well, I'd really like to see some changes in GST.
Lisa Keller, CKY NewsHour.
And if the public opinion polls are right, then the New Democrats are in real trouble in this federal election. The polls have the party way down in popularity with less than 10% of voter support. And yet federal candidates in our province are still very confident of their chances. In fact, the NDP is hoping to triple the number of seats it currently holds in Manitoba. NewsHour's Glenn Cassie has more.
New Democrats like Manitoba so much, Audrey McLaughlin started her campaign here. That support, however, hasn't followed her from coast to coast.
It's not affecting us too much in this province. We're bucking the trend.
Selkirk's Red River candidate Jason Schreier is one of the NDPers with a shot at stealing a Tory seat. His turf overlaps part of the provincial riding the NDP just captured from the Tories in last month's by-election. That momentum is giving all New Democrats a shot in the arm.
I think if we learned anything from the by-elections, when people are concerned about health care, they turn to the NDP.
Veteran New Democrats, though, are cautious. They're not talking about forming government, but rather selling their role as social watchdogs.
People know that the makeup of a parliament is significant, and they know that parliaments in the past have paid more attention to their issues when the NDP has been in a position to exercise some influence.
That still doesn't explain why Manitobans would have more faith in the party than the rest of Canada. Former provincial cabinet minister Maureen Hemphill says it's because we've had an NDP government.
They're not as afraid of it. I mean, as I said, we went through a very serious recession with the Pauli government. We created jobs. We didn't get preoccupied. We managed the deficit.
All that provincial optimism won't mean much if the party takes a beating nationally. Now, there is a glimmer of hope yet. The upcoming televised debates. A good showing there could help turn the polls around. And nationally, the NDP need it. Glenn Cassie, CKY NewsHour.
Well, lots more coming up. And hey, nice to see you, pal.
Thanks very much, and it's good to see you too.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It certainly has, since we've been back in the saddle.
Maybe we should do a town of the night tonight for old times.
Certainly, town of the night. I say Nipawa, Manitoba. Manitoba's most beautiful town.
That's the town that you used the first night.
The very first night we did the late news together. There's a little nostalgia for you.
Many moons ago. Well, I happen to like John Gregory, but I don't give his team a chance in what?
I have statistical data to back that up, as a matter of fact. They don't have a chance tomorrow. We'll have a full story looking ahead to the Bomber game tomorrow. As well, we'll also have a complete follow-up on yesterday's historic announcement which awarded Canada's first NBA team to Winnipeg. I'm kidding, to Toronto. We'll have that and, of course, that Friday favorite.
This is the PG version of what we just saw. I didn't think you could merge in a Formula One race. Gerhard Berger, nice driving, big guy.
I understand it'll be a little better tomorrow afternoon for the football game, because if they had played it today...
Yeah, that would have been a little nasty.
I heard they're looking at a crowd of 25,000 so far.
With a high of about 8 degrees or something like that.
Yeah,
perfect
looks good.
Football weather. Sure it is. Well, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon will be the Bombers' first home game in 3 weeks. Hamilton will provide the opposition. As Bomber fans witnessed a couple of weeks ago in the loss to Toronto, anything can happen in the CFL, but on paper, all the evidence points to this contest being a relatively easy Winnipeg win. Hamilton is 5-8, the Bombers 9-4. In the Tiger Cat losses, all but 2 with Don McPherson at quarterback, they have scored an average of just 11 points per game.
That's the inconsistency that you get with a rookie quarterback. 1 week he's great, and the next week he's not so great.
I just hope he doesn't get consistent against us.
Hamilton's lone offensive threat is Earl Winfield, who returned a punt 72 yards for a touchdown in the Tiger Cats' 40-11 loss to Winnipeg on July 29th. Winfield won't be a concern tomorrow, though. He's out with a sprained ankle.
Earl Winfield is one of the outstanding players in the league. I don't think anybody would question that. And to not have him certainly is a tough thing for us.
In Hamilton's 8 defeats, they have given up an average of 39 points. Their 2 losses to the Bombers were by scores of 40-11 and 35-11.
Our statistics bear out our suffering.
The Tiger Cats might have scored more points, but the Bomber defense hardly lets their offense on the field.
Evans intercepts a pass.
In Hamilton's last visit, Bob Torrance was intercepted 5 times. In the game before that, McPherson was sacked 3 times, and the Bombers will be pursuing him with vigor again tomorrow.
I think that might be a way of saying it.
Richardson into the end zone.
Hamilton has more to be concerned about than just the Bomber defense. Michael Richardson feasted on them last month, rushing for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I think we got a real good plan. I don't think he's going to play.
Ah, John, that's just wishful thinking. Richardson is going to play tomorrow.
My ankle's fine. I'm ready to play, and I'm back to normal, I feel.
A win against Hamilton will clinch first place for the Bombers, but going into cruise control after that doesn't appear to be a danger.
We had better play well. Let's put it that way.
Doesn't leave much doubt, does it? A reminder, the Kids Sport Fund will have representatives on hand tomorrow collecting any used sports equipment you might have to donate to help underprivileged kids play sports. And speaking of underprivileged, the BC Lions, losers of 2 straight, will play the Mighty Riders in Regina this evening. Saskatchewan, as Clay will tell you, has won 2 straight to pull into a second-place tie with 8-5 BC. Well, first she should have, but she didn't. Now she might. Canadian synchronized swimmer Sylvie Frechette may be getting a gold medal after all. Just to refresh your memory, it was Frechette who was denied a gold medal at the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona after a Brazilian judge accidentally punched in the wrong score. An American official wouldn't allow a correction, and Kristen Babb-Sprague, also an American, won the gold. Frechette settled for the silver. However, today, FINA, the world swimming body, ruled that Frechette should be given a gold medal. It now remains for the International Olympic Committee to decide if they agree with FINA's ruling. Well, it will be a long time before the hoopla subsides over the first NBA franchise ever awarded to a Canadian city, namely Toronto. The new team, set to begin play in 1995, is still without a name and without a permanent home, but plans for both of those are already underway.
Happy birthday! John Bitove Jr. had 2 very good reasons to celebrate last night. It was his 33rd birthday, and he had just won a much sought-after NBA franchise for Toronto.
Great way to celebrate a birthday.
The cost of the franchise, that still has to be negotiated, but it will likely be more than $100 million U.S. The decision to award the franchise to Toronto still has to be ratified by the league's Board of Governors, but that vote next month should be little more than a formality. Successful marketing has transformed the NBA into one of the slickest professional sporting shows around, one that hardly resembles the game that Canadian James Naismith invented just over 100 years ago. Naismith, from Almont, Ontario, outside of Ottawa, traveled to Springfield, Massachusetts, where he worked at the YMCA. He was given the task of coming up with a game that baseball and soccer athletes could play inside during the winter months. Naismith started with a soccer ball and a peach basket, and the rest is history. Today in Canada, more than 350,000 students play high school basketball. The Toronto team, yet to be named, will be up and running by the fall of 1995 at Skydome. By 1996, they hope to be playing out of a brand new 22,000-seat arena next to the Eaton Centre at Bay and Dundas.
Well, the fight for first in the National League West is going down to the last 3 games of the season. The San Francisco Giants beat LA last night 3-1, putting them in a dead heat with Atlanta going into the final weekend of the year. Well, that's not chewing tobacco in the mouth of Bobby Cox. It's a baseball. His Braves were at battle with Houston. John Smoltz lets one get away, and Ken Caminiti gives Houston a 3-2 lead. But Fred McGriff, the last of the free swingers, clubbed a fearsome homer. His 37th put Atlanta on top 4-3. It started to get wild shortly after that, though. Craig Biggio of the Astros gets a hold of a really fat Smoltz pitch. This one ties the game at 4 apiece. Houston went crazy after that. Ed Taubensee, Old Ed they called him, lashed a base hit. That scored a couple of runs as part of a 10-8 Astro victory. That loss dropped Atlanta into a tie with San Francisco, who meets the Dodgers again this evening. Coming up later on Second Half Sports, today is Sports Day, the day the Kids Sport Fund wants Manitobans to officially recognize the sporting youth of the province. The fund has been selling ribbons to raise money to help underprivileged kids while also collecting used equipment down at the Forks.
Speaking of Toronto, when the Blue Jays were called the Blue Jays, I believe they had a big fan poll, and that's how they came up with the name Blue Jays. So I'd like to put in the word Towers, Toronto Towers.
Toronto Towers.
What do you think?
I think it works for me, sure, why
Toronto
not?
CN Towers.
Okay, as opposed to the Toronto Eaton Centers, I like it.
All righty, thanks, Steve. And coming up on NewsHour, seniors who winter in Florida are in for a shock. And it has nothing to do with tourism violence. But coming up next, we'll check out the weather with Sylvia. Stay with us.